Hello viewers, my name is Abongile Nkwencha, a subject advisor for services subjects from Christian West District. Welcome to the ECDOE broadcast studio. Today's lesson is about the overview and structure of the Grade 12 Consumer Studies Preparatory Examination. I'll be covering this outline for your full understanding. Before I delve into today's lesson, I desire to extend a word of gratitude to all the Grade 12 Consumer Studies learners in the province. Your dedication, hard work, and perseverance have brought you this far. Now it's time for you to show what you are capable of, and I wish you all the best for your preparatory examination. Now, grade 12, let us focus on the first part of our lesson. The first part of our lesson will be focusing on the sections, questions, topics, weights, and the time that is allocated for each question. The paper that you'll be writing on the 18th is going to have two sections, which is section A and section B. In section A, grade 12s, you are going to have only one question. This question is going to have short questions and it's going to contain all the topics. So it is imperative that grade 12s, you know your content, you know all your topics. The marks allocated is 40 marks, 20% weight, and 20 minutes is allocated for this section. The second section, grade 12s, that you will be answering in this question paper is section B. Your section B is going to have 5 questions from question 2 to question 6. 3 of the questions in this section carry a lot of marks, about 40 marks each, which is question 2, question 3, and question 6. In question 2, you'll be assessed on the consumer. Question 3, food and nutrition. Question 6, entrepreneurship. And the weight for each of the 3 questions is 20%. Time allocation is 40 minutes each. Grade 12s, you will also have question 4 and question 5. Your question 4 is going to have clothing. Question 5 is going to have housing. Each of the 2 questions carry 20 marks each and a weight of 10% each. That is the layout or the outline of the question paper, grade 12s, that you'll be answering on the 18th of September. And this structure is based on the examination guidelines 2021 to 2023. Now let us dive into the layout of your answer book or your answer paper. Here are the tips to keep in mind when answering your question paper or when you are answering in the answer book. Now, grade 12, let us dive into answering the questions. How are you going to answer section A and section B? Let us first start with our first section, which is section A. Section A is going to have short questions, and as I've alluded earlier, it's going to have only one question. So in this section, grade 12s, you need to read questions carefully or thoroughly. You must read the statements with understanding so that you are able to provide the best option from those that will be provided. Secondly, you are going to have question 1.1.1 to 1.1.20. In this part, you'll be answering the multiple choice questions. When answering the multiple choice questions, grade 12s, ensure that you provide only one letter, as the marker will only mark the first letter. If you have provided 2, the marker will disregard the second one. Also here, you are going to identify, choose, and select. You are going to identify requirements for quality products. You are going to choose advantages for buying or renting. You are going to select guidelines. Here, grade 12s, you are going to be provided with a number of guidelines, about 6, for example, and you must be mindful of the mark allocation. The mark allocation will be 3, for example. Therefore, it means that you must only select 3. Further than that will not be marked, even if the first 3 is incorrect and the bottom 2 is correct. You are going to match column A with column B. Also here, grade 12s, you need to read the descriptions and familiarize yourself with the terms and link each term with the description and provide only one letter, not 2, as the marker will only focus on the first letter. Lastly, you are going to give one word or term for each of the descriptions. This basically means that grade 12, it is imperative that you know your terms, you know your concepts, because here you'll be provided with the description and your responsibility will be to provide the terms for each description. That is how you are going to answer section A, grade 12s. Now, let us focus or concentrate on the example of the question paper that I have extracted from the previous question papers. This is section A, where you are going to have short questions, and it would be your question 1. So in 1.1 grade 12s, you will be provided with possible answers, and you have to choose the correct answer, and we have to write only the letter A to D, only one letter. For example, in 1.1.1, here is the statement there. The purpose of the consumer price index is 2. You have been given 4 options there, A, B, C, D. In A, the response is to determine the price of basic food items. In B, to calculate the official rate of inflation. C, to assess the influence of price increases. And in D, to determine the current interest rate. And the correct response there is B. So you need not to write the response again, just write only the letter and only one letter. You'll be doing that grade 12 from 1.1.1 to 1.1.20. In 1.2 grade 12s, you are going to choose the description from column A that matches the term in column B. And also here, you will have to write only the letter next to the question numbers. For example, here, you are going to read all the descriptions from 1.2.1 to 1.2.5, and after reading the descriptions, you must familiarize yourself with all the terms, that have been provided, and you have to link. For example, 1.2.1, the term there is haute couture, which is F, and you go to your answer book and write only the letter, which is F. You will also be provided with the descriptions grade 12, where you have to give one word or term. Hence, I said it is imperative that you know your concepts or you know your terms, because you have to provide the terms from 1.3.1 to 1.3.5, and you have to provide only one word, not more than one. In 1.4, you are going to identify. You will be provided with the statements, and here you'll be provided with a number of statements. For example, in this question paper, you've been provided with 8 statements, and yet the mark allocation is 4 marks. Therefore, it means that you need to provide only 4. Further than 4 will not be regarded by the marker or will not be marked by a marker. And you will also have to select. You are going to select advantages. You are going to select ways to save water. You are going to select requirements. And also here, you will be provided with a number of advantages, and yet the mark allocation is going to be 3. Therefore, it means that you must provide only 3 letters there. Further than 3 will not be marked. And please, grade 12s, do not rewrite the statements or the advantages, just only the letter. Do not waste your time in this question. This question is going to have only 20 minutes. Now, grade 12, let us delve into our second section, which is section B of the question paper. This section has got 5 questions from question 2 up to question 6. In this section, grade 12s, you need to prepare for questions that require comprehension, application, and lower to higher order questions. So this basically means that you are going to read scenarios, statements, adverts. So you need to read with understanding so that you are able to provide correct responses. You are going to apply your knowledge. Therefore, you are going to evaluate, analyze, illustrate, and demonstrate. And it's going to be a scaffolding of questions from easy to difficult. Secondly, you need to prepare for questions that require shorter to longer answers. The shorter responses will have the following action verbs: to name, to list, and to give. And the longer answers will have the following action verbs: to discuss, describe, explain, evaluate, analyze, demonstrate. And you also need to ensure that you prepare for questions that are picture-based, statement-based, scenarios, basic calculations, and graph-based. For example, in question 4, you may be given a picture of a clothing item where you have to analyze that item. You will also be provided with the statements where you have to read the statements and analyze or evaluate the statements. You are going to read the scenarios, and at some point you have to deduce answers from the scenarios, and you will have to do basic calculations. For example, in question 6, you may be required to calculate the production cost, the selling price, and the profit. And questions that are graph-based. For example, in question 4, where there is fraction cycle graph, maybe you'll have to draw it or to analyze it. You'll also be provided with meal plans, menus, recipes, cartoon, budget, business plan that could be used as resources. In this part, grade 12s, for example, in question 3, where you will be assessed on food and nutrition, you may be given meal plans where you have to evaluate the suitability of the meal according to the food, nutritional, and food-related health conditions. And in this section, you must master your terminology. You'll be required to define the terms, to demonstrate the difference between the terms, and also to provide the terms for the descriptions. And be familiar with the action verbs according to the examination guidelines 2021 to 2023, where you have to discuss. When you discuss, you give the in-depth knowledge and provide examples. And where you describe, you provide the main characteristics, for example. Now, let us focus on the first question of section B, which is question 2. The topic here is the consumer. Here is what to prepare or what you need to know for this question. You must know sustainable consumption of electricity. So this basically means that you may be required to compare the sources of energy and also to provide the advantages for each sources of energy and to evaluate ways to save energy. You must be able to provide the use of gases as a source of energy. For example, you may be required to discuss the advantages of using a gas stove or to discuss the disadvantages of using a gas stove. You must also know the sustainable consumption of water. Here you'll be required to explain or to list ways to save water, and you must know your municipal services. So in this section, you must know the responsibilities of the municipality regarding their communities. Also, know the responsibilities of the community and know how the municipality can ensure safety in the community, and also know the basic services that are provided by the municipality. And in this section, also know the financial and contractual aspects that consumers should take note of. For example, you may be required here to define concepts such as contract, warranty, guarantee, exemption clause, cooling off period, such a number of concepts to know here, and also be able to explain the role of National Consumer Protection Act. In this section, grade 12s, you must know your taxes, know the examples of taxes that are paid by South Africans, know the difference between the direct and indirect tax, know the difference between variable interest rate and fixed interest rate, know what is a prime interest rate and a repo rate, also know the inflation, what is inflation, and the consumer price index, and how inflation affects South African households. Now, grade 12s, let us concentrate on the example of the question paper that I have extracted from September 2024, question 2. I just want to demonstrate how the scaffolding of questions will be in the question paper. Firstly, you will have to define, name, and demonstrate the difference. This is easy, middle, and difficult. So this simply means that grade 12s, in this section, you are going to have questions from easy to difficult. When you name, you only provide one sentence as the mark allocation is indicated. When you define, you have to provide the meaning of the concept, and you can even provide examples. And when you demonstrate the difference between concepts, for example, in this question paper, we have CPI and inflation. You cannot just say consumer price index, but you need to provide in-depth knowledge of what is a consumer price index and compare the consumer price index with inflation. That is how you provide the difference, and that is how is the scaffolding of question is done. Also, here is the example of an advertisement where you have to read. Always, grade 12, ensure that you read the advertisement, whatever is provided for you to read from the first word up to the last word, because you might find that some of the responses will be taken directly from the advertisement or the extract. For example, in this question paper, 2.4.1, you have to state the benefits of installing an ESCOM heat pump. The answers that grade 12s are directly deduced from the extract. Here is the first response. It can cut the cost of heating by 67%. Secondly, it is energy efficient, and ESCOM offers to pay a rebate, meaning that to provide refunds or discounts. So you can get that 3 marks if you are willing to read with understanding. Now, grade 12, let us concentrate on question 3 of the question paper. In this question, you are going to be assessed on food and nutrition. This question is out of 40 marks. This is what you need to know in this question. Firstly, according to the examination guidelines 2021 to 2023, this year we are doing 2022 nutritional and food-related health condition, which include anemia, high blood pressure, cholesterol, and atherosclerosis. When you prepare for the nutritional and food-related health conditions, you must know the description, know the causes, and also ways to manage the condition. Secondly, you must know the foodborne diseases, know the concept, what is a foodborne disease, be able to define the concept, also know the types or the examples of foodborne diseases, and also the transmission possibilities in the kitchen environment and ways to prevent foodborne diseases. You must know your food additives, the examples of food additives, and be able to provide the examples and also the types of food additives and the definition of the concept. The food labeling. Here you must know what should appear on the label of the food item. Also, grade 12s, you need to prepare yourself on food labeling. You must know what should be on the food label and also the nutritional information that should appear on the label. Lastly, you must prepare yourself on the food-related consumer issues that are impacting the natural and economic environment, including public health. So in this section, you must be able to demonstrate the difference between genetically modified foods and organic foods, and also be able to explain what is food security and how food security is beneficial for South Africans. Now, let us delve into an example of the November 2022 question paper. In this question paper, grade 12s, I just want to demonstrate or address how you evaluate the menu plan or how you evaluate the meal. Because according to the Chief Marker's report, this is one of the questions that are challenging for the learners. So in this question paper, we have 3.7 where you have to read the scenario and answer the questions that follow. So in 3.7.1, you have to identify the food-related health condition that has been diagnosed by the doctor. So when you identify the condition, you must be in knowledge of the causes. For example, here, it has been stated that Nancy is feeling weak and tired. Therefore, when you link the symptoms of that Nancy is having, Nancy is anemic. The second question is to discuss the reasons why the doctor prescribed the above plan for Nancy. So when you evaluate grade 12s, the menu, or when you evaluate the meal, you need to go food item by food item and deduce the main nutrient in each food item. For example, here we have the fresh fruit. The fresh fruit contains vitamin C or folic acid, which assist in the absorption of iron. That is the first point. Secondly, we have muesli, which contains iron. Iron is responsible for the formation of red blood cells. And we also have the hard-boiled eggs. Eggs contain iron, which is also responsible or is needed for the formation of hemoglobin and red blood cells, and the orange juice, which contains vitamin C, which is needed for the absorption of iron. Therefore, the menu or the breakfast plan is perfect for Nancy's condition because it is going to improve the iron in her body. So when you evaluate grade 12s, always remember that you go food item by food item and deduce the main nutrient and the benefits of that particular nutrient for each and every condition that you'll be evaluating. Now, grade 12s, we are going to jump to question 6. As I have mentioned earlier, that this is one of the questions that carry a lot of marks. So question 6, the topic there is entrepreneurship. This question carries about 40 marks at 20% weight. So this is what you need to know, grade 12s, in this question. You must know how to move from an idea and also how to market a product. So here you must know the product specification. What is a product specification? What should be included in the product specification? Also, you must know the choice of a suitable product, how to choose a suitable product, and also the factors that influence the choice of the product. For example, the availability of raw material, the availability of human resource, and the availability of workspace. And you must also know the factors that influence efficient production of quality products and know the requirements for quality products. For example, you may be required to discuss the purpose of stock control, the importance of training staff, the importance of managing time, and also you must know the concept sustainable production. What is the meaning of sustainable production and what is the meaning of sustainable consumption? You may be required to illustrate the difference between these two concepts. You must prepare yourself, grade 12s, for the 5P marketing strategy. You must know your 5Ps, be able to link the 5Ps on the extract, or you must be able to provide examples for each P of the marketing strategy. Lastly, grade 12s, you must know the financial feasibility to determine the sustainable profitability. Know these concepts, what is financial feasibility and what is sustainable profitability. Have an understanding of what is a worst case scenario or the best case scenario. In this section, grade 12s, you will have quite a number of concepts that you will have to define. Now, grade 12s, I want us to interact with the example of the question paper that I have extracted from 2024 September, question 6. However, in this question paper, I just want to show you the instructions that I was referring to. For example, in 6.3.5, you have to write in a paragraph. So this 6 marks, 1 mark from this 6 marks is for writing in a paragraph. So hence I was saying it is important to follow the instructions. In this question paper, grade 12s, I want us to focus on the second question. The second question that I want us to address is 6.4, where you will have to do the basic calculation. So here, grade 12s, you are going to be required to calculate the total cost of the product or of an item. So in this question paper, we have a metric farewell dress, a fabric of 4 meters that is needed, and a meter is 80 rands. And we have threads and buttons at 20 rands, and overhead costs and labor at 300 rands. The first step is to calculate the production cost. When you calculate the production cost, you add all the expenses. So it is important, grade 12s, that you show all your calculations. Each and every step have marks that are allocated. So when you calculate the total cost, you start with the production cost. In this question paper, the dress is going to need 4 meters. Per meter is 80 rands. Therefore, we need to multiply 80 rands by 4 meters, and the amount or the money that will be needed is 320. Then you add all your expenses, 320 plus 20 rands for threads and buttons. You also add the overhead costs and labor, which is at 300 rands per dress. And your production cost will amount to 640. And the second step will be to calculate your markup. You take your production cost, which is 640, multiplied by the markup of 40%, divide by 100. And your answer is 256. Therefore, this is your profit or your markup. To get the total cost, you add your production cost plus your profit or the markup of 256, and the total cost of one dress amounts to 896 rands. This is how you calculate the production cost, the markup, and the selling price or the total cost of an item or of a dress. We are now grade 12s going back to the two questions that carry 20 marks per question, which is question 4 and question 5. In question 4, you will be assessed on clothing. So here is what you need to prepare for this section, which is clothing. You need to know the concept fashion, be able to provide the difference between fashion and a style, the relationship between a fashion and a style, and also be able to provide the examples of fashion, which is the fashion fad, fashion cycle, contemporary fashion, fashion revival, vintage, and haute couture. Also, you must know the influences that cause fashion change, such as technological factors, economic factors, social factors. Also, have a knowledge of a fashion cycle. You must be able to demonstrate or illustrate the 5 stages of a fashion cycle, which is introduction, rise, peak, decline, and obsolescence, and also be able to define them or to explain them. Also know the guidelines to follow when choosing a wardrobe for a field of work, and also know the factors that influence fashion cycle and why fashion cycle overlaps, and know the consumer issues regarding clothing, textiles that are impacting on the natural and economic environment. So basically, grade 12s, this is what you need to know in this section. You will be required to differentiate the terms, to explain the terms, to define the terms, and also to evaluate the outfit, the suitability of the outfit for a professional work. In question 5, grade 12s, you'll be assessed on housing. This is the second question that carries 20 marks and a weight of 10 marks. So in this section, grade 12s, you must know the different housing acquisition options. We have 3, which is buying, renting, and building. Be able to provide the advantages for each housing acquisition, and also be able to provide the types of ownerships that are evident in each housing acquisition. You must know the financial responsibilities for the 3 housing acquisition options. You must know the contracts that are signed in each housing acquisition option, and what is it that should be contained in each contract, and the parties that sign the contracts. Also, grade 12s, you need to prepare yourself on the buying of the household appliances. You must know the difference between human energy and non-human energy, and also the factors to consider when buying the household appliances, the financial and contractual responsibilities in buying furniture and household appliances. You must know the contractual aspects that the consumers enter when buying appliances. You must know the insurances that are involved here, know the responsibilities of the customer regarding the contract, and also know the difference between a lay-by, hire purchase, and the installment sale, and also a hire purchase, and know what is an interest, and you must know the rights and responsibilities of consumers and sellers regarding their home appliances and furniture. We have come to the end of our lesson. You can leave your questions on the comments. Don't forget to leave the name of your school so we give shout outs. Please share, recommend, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. See you on our next lesson.